is it possible for you to lift that whole Land Use Act from being a constitutional matter to being on a policy that can be easily changed and all those things? So they are working on that. The National Assembly have agreed that there's need to do something about the Land Use Act. But while that is going on, we are using a back door to solve certain problems, which is like, if the governors agree that you don't need to come to me for revalidation of the title, they can go ahead and do it. Or they can even, like in Lagos State, they can outsource it to different sets of people, city agencies. For this sort of thing, you come to me. For subsequent ones, go to the Commissioner of Trade, and you empower the commissioners.
Okay.
So it becomes...
Mr. Makwede, we have to start winding down now. Okay. But a major issue is, it's one thing to have 1 million houses all over Nigeria, but are these houses going to be affordable? Or do we have a situation as normal where the houses are built and it's only the rich who can afford them, and those who actually need the houses still don't have access to them?
Thank you very much. I mean, affordability is always a key issue, and the first definition people will say to you about affordability is relative, which is really very true. I think one of the first things that housing advocates, and we champion this even with architect Etuk, is the classification of homes. So that's one thing we need to get out there. In housing, there are always 3 levels. There's housing luxury, which is for the rich. Really government makes money from that. You tax them, and there's there's affordable housing, which is really low, medium income, or what to call young professional housing class, so you work in 5 years, 10 years, you can afford a home and things like that. And then obviously there is the social housing. Incidentally, when you started and talked about Jaconde homes, I've always said it, that it's been done before, and it can be done again. So there's most times the things that baffle us in this country, they really are not rocket science. Well, if you just take a peek back into history, we've done them before. So those really are social housing. And the truth of the matter is, when you then look at it from the private sector perspective, because let's face it, government cannot really build houses. And I'm an advocate of the fact that government should leave building of houses, create the enabling environment, which you started talking about, and I'll mention a few as we wrap up, and then let the private sector develop. But
run very quickly, because we have to really wrap up now.
Okay.
Run very quickly, 1, 2, 3, or 5 or 4 points, not that many that you're going to mention, because we've got to...
I think one of it, we've talked about infrastructure. Let me hit on infrastructure. Very key. I mean, one of the things the government should do is provide infrastructure for a lot of these development schemes. Provide the drainages, the curbs, the roads, the power, and then let the developer just come and do the building of the houses. Once you do that, you crash 40% of housing costs. That's one. Two, the other thing is portability of housing. So once you're able to accelerate what is just talked about this Land Use Act, what you then have is you have a lot of rental homes and rent-to-own schemes. They will come up, because when we look at it, everybody in this affordable class, medium class, that can really, the money you pay for your rent over 5 years, 10 years could have gotten you that same house, But we should be, once you have the possibility of being able to transfer ownership of homes, you just have a lot of rental skills coming up. And of course, we've talked about because that would be backed up by long-term funds. The next thing is, of course, building technologies, innovative building technologies. It's high time we move away from just the conventional, which is the wet construction, the regular brick and mortar, to other innovative building solutions, dry construction, panel houses, modular builds, and things like that.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Luede. You were going to, very quickly, you were going to say something on infrastructure, and then would like your final words.
All right. On infrastructure, I wanted to cite an instance. I know of a developer that had to run 8-kilometer stretch of high-tension poles.
8 kilometers?
8 kilometers.
To get to where the scheme is.
So how affordable can that?
Yes.
Exactly.
That is going to add to the cost.
Yes,
it definitely will add to the cost of providing the houses. So how affordable can the houses be?
not
So that means government has got to create, again, the enabling environment, the high-tension lines that will give electricity,
that's what I was saying,
and the curbs that Mr. Omekwode mentioned.
Yes, that's why I was saying that once you apply for a CFO for a mass housing project, what the government needed to do was to send some people to the place, the officials, to know what facilities will be required in the area, provide those facilities. Once people see that government is involved, they trust government more because they assume government has more resources than every other person around. So if there is a collaboration between the government and the private developers, I'm sure all these things that we are talking about would be a thing of the past, and we'll be talking of something else.
Okay, Ezekiel, if we have to close now.
Yeah, number one, the recapitalization of the Federal Mortgage Bank. Mr. President, 2 weeks ago at the conference, made a definite commitment that Federal Mortgage Bank must be recapitalized. Great. So he's giving that commitment. The second is that government might not have money to do infrastructure, but what you can do is say, okay, cost the infrastructure separate. Yes. And then over a period of 4 years, we take it out as concessions, development levies, tax concessions, and all those things. So you don't have to feel, you can actually recoup your cost of infrastructure. Then the third thing is that there is strategic networking that has to be done. You have to have, the delivery chain is so wide and vast. You must put all of them together. And this is what we are trying to do right now. Get all the different aspects, because from the land to the technology, to the finance, to the infrastructure, to the off-takers, to the mortgage, to even the insurance, real estate insurance brokerage. All these things must be put together to form a complete chain for the movement to be very smooth. And that is what is being done now.
All right, so as we round up now, I've got to close this segment. I would like to just home in on the issue of expectation. Is always a big problem for Nigerians. In terms of expectation for this financial year, should Nigerians be expecting that we will have anything near 25% of the 1 million homes?
From what we have so far, I believe that at the end of this year, we would be able to do the first 25, not 100%, definitely not.
25%.
Yes, I believe that, because there are a few policies coming up, even in Abuja, the land swap deal. People are starting to have confidence, and a lot of investors are coming. They just want all these, systems to hook up properly. And I want to say, let's move from problem analysis to solution provider. There's a massive amount of resources and to be made. 17 million is about 42 trillion in naira. Okay? And that's a large amount of money. It's like the telecoms. We were whining over the problems. Let us start to look for, solutions.
All right.
2 seconds.
Your last word.
Yes, 2 seconds. I think in all of this, proper town planning, zoning, and codes, very important. Very, very important. And finally, skills. Because in all the estate development going on now, we all know the realities. It's
don't have the skill set.
Exactly.
And we're going to have to import from Benin.
Exactly. So that's something that even on another side we're already working on to revise the skills.
It's a subject that we will have to go on and on and on, because the workmanship that we find in Nigeria leaves much to be desired a lot of times. So we end up importing.
We're solving that now.
We're solving it.
We just launched Skill Up 2 months ago with the Lagos State government.
Fantastic.
Bringing back city and guilds. We're training them in the Ikorodu right now.
Oh, okay.
So
that is good. It's good news to hear. Thank you very much. I must start with you, Mr. Falabi Mokwede, the Chief Executive of MCF Consulting and the Development Consultant. Thank you very much. And also Mr. Akin Oloyede, Property Developer.
Thank you very much.
And then, of course, Ezekiel Nyaitok, Chairman, Social Housing Advocacy Group. And you're saying to the government, wind down the National Housing
former Vice Chairman.
He's an unusual Nigerian.
The federal government.
They keep the title forever.
They
normally keep the title forever. So he's an unusual Nigerian.
Let it end.
Let it end. Okay. Thank you very much, gentlemen. It's been great having this conversation. We've been talking on about focus on the housing sector, and I'm sure that Nigerians are going to be keen for us to keep the conversation going during the course of the year. Sunrise is not ending yet. We'll be moving on to the next segment in just a moment, so please don't go away.
Your tummy is always very busy. It can contract up to 8 centimeters. which can cause one gappy nappy. But you slept soundly thanks to Pampers Premium Care Diapers, now in a new premium look.